After 2 years and more than 100 videos, thanks to you guys, I was able to finally quit my job and start my own architecture business. I met my dream client and I'm working on some really cool projects. But when I thought everything was going perfectly fine, the universe threw me a curveball. Feels a little bit steeper than I thought it was gonna be.
I need to know everything. You know what and know where I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. Curious George, I hop in the Porsche, 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war.
A portion of this video is sponsored by Insta360.
Turn to a ghost, I need to know everything.
This is the site right here, from about that pole to probably somewhere over there. And it's one of those areas with no sidewalks and nowhere to park your car because people don't want you to come here. And yesterday, actually, when I came here with a client, we parked our car right here. The neighbor came out and told us to move our car in like 10 minutes. So I made this Rhino model before I came here based off of a survey that was done in 2006. I'm standing right over here. There's a slightly less steep slope over there. So we'll enter into the site from that way. Good thing I brought my boots. There's a lot more trees than I expected. So the site ends all the way up there. So we're not even close yet. So let's continue. Whoa. This over here is the protected oak tree. I think it's gonna be really nice to design around it. I stayed in a house in Italy over the summer one time, and it was right next to this massive oak tree. And it was just so beautiful. When you open the windows, you hear silence and you hear the rustling of the leaves. And when you wake up early, you can actually hear the birds wake up with you. So yeah, I'll just show you where on the site we are right now. So we are right here, and that's the road just over. This entire thing is the site. As you can see, it's so steep over here, and it would have been impossible for us to walk up this path. This entire area is very, very steep as well. And there's just a lot of trees around that I don't think I'm gonna try to even get up there. So we're facing east, a little bit northeast, and you can see this beautiful view of the hill over there. And because it's in a slightly hilly area, I think it probably has its own little microclimate. Apparently it gets really, really hot here because the Oakland Hills blocks a lot of the fog and the cool air from coming down this area. So super hot and a little bit more wet in the winters. I wanted to show you that massive bird's nest. Here's the highlight of my architectural experience right here. So I'm getting some footage of the site with my Insta360 RS1 camera. And because it can grab a 360 view of the site, it's so much more helpful than just being able to grab photos or videos. Oh, branches. I made it to the top of the site. So the site actually goes in further up till about that point, but once you get there, we have this house, so that's probably not the most ideal place to site our building. There is a little bit of a flat area right here where the house could potentially sit on, and if these trees were cleared, the view from here would be pretty nice. The most important part of a site visit is you need to feel the site and listen to the site and become one with the site.
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah. One of the things that I noticed when I was there is how quickly it got dark. We were there until about 4 p.m. and it was already starting to get dark. And that's because we have this really steep hill. Say that's me right there. And I mean, you can already see how steep the slope is, right? So that way is north, that's south. And so if the sun is rising from the east, making its way west, you can see over here, there's a very big shadowed area. And especially as we get into the winter months, when the sun starts getting lower, you get an even bigger shadowed area. And I also tried doing a proper sun study, and that's what I found here as well. And I remember when I was staying in Bolzano in northern Italy, which is also a very mountainous region, that was one of the biggest complaints there, that it got dark so fast. There's also a lot of trees on site, which is going to be creating a lot of shadows. By the way, guys, this little device helped me shoot all the overhead shots of my model. The Insta360 Link is an extremely versatile webcam because it's got a gimbal design that allows multiple configurations. I'm using the overhead mode to record my model, and it records high quality 4K videos with a 1/2-inch sensor and a really large aperture lens. It can be easily attached to all standard arms, and it only weighs 100 grams. The camera has dedicated software that allows for a lot of customization, including manual focus, manual exposure, and manual gimbal movements with position presets. You can also record videos directly in the app. It uses AI to track your movements when you move around. It can also be controlled with hand gestures. If you're working in an open environment like mine, it's got a noise canceling feature that'll get rid of all of the background noise. Check my link in the description if you want to know more. So if we can place the building maybe somewhere around here on top of the hill, that would be ideal. So you can get the nice morning light, you can get the nice light from the south during the day, and you can also get a nice evening light as well. And you would get this incredible view of the hill. There is that view into the neighbor's house, but we can probably create some landscaping around it. The other option is to place it in the middle of the site, which is closer to the road, so it's going to be easier for bringing materials up. We're not going to have to build as long of a driveway, so it's a little bit more efficient. But of course, your period of daylight is a lot shorter because, like I said, it's blocked by this hill. So in order to maximize daylight, this is roughly 3,000 square feet. Maybe we can have these two volumes kind of fan out so that we can try to get as much glazing surface area as possible. Or maybe we could do something like this so that this top volume is getting a little bit of that southern light. And maybe these two volumes are connected so that this bottom volume borrows a bit of that light. Or we could potentially stack it this way so that we have lots of surface area facing the morning sun. And again, the top volume gets a little bit of that southern light because over here it's a little bit less steep. I'm gonna just borrow this tree as a column, but maybe we can have a staggered configuration like this so that this area still gets a bit of that nice morning light. The only problem with placing the building on top of the hill is that you see this line here? If you look on the city of Orinda's zoning map, this area is called the Ridgeway Overlay Area.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
And in this area, you can build up to a maximum of 18 feet in height. and 500 square feet. The site also starts to narrow in this direction, and it's also quite a ways up the hill. So it might be a little bit more complicated to bring materials or try to build something all the way up here. We're still in the pre-design phase, and so we're not even getting into the design part yet. And so the point of this exercise for me, it's not to identify exactly where the building's gonna go, because we're still waiting for a survey and the geotech report. And honestly, like once we get that, we might find that some of these areas are gonna be really hard to build on. Maybe the soil is really loose and we need a lot of fill. And so really the point of this is for me to try to identify some of these conditions and try to create different scenarios. So when I do have a conversation with geotech and structural, we're not making the decision purely on structural conditions or soil conditions or cost, but we are looking at things a little bit more holistically. We can actually talk about the pros and cons of each option in terms of the space and the experience and the light. And I find that when you come a little bit more prepared with your own preferences, you can have a much more interesting conversation. I presented some of these ideas to the client, as well as some different options for how the building could sit on the site. Would it float? Would it embed? Would it cantilever? Or would it be a combination of them? Now, as an architect, of course, you want to start designing and start moving into the next phase. But as a business owner, you have to make sure that you're not moving into the next phase until you finish one phase and get paid for that phase. So it's going to be another couple of weeks until we get the survey and the geotech report, which is actually perfect because during that time, I'm not going to do any work, but I can start thinking about a concept for this building. There's something that came up when I was talking to the client, and we were having a really long conversation about our vision and what we wanted to build. And we both agreed we wanted to build something really unique. And he asked a question: what is something that everyone wants, but nobody has? I know that's really out there, but I just want to let you chew on that. Based on what we talked about today and that question, what do you think is the concept that I'm thinking of in my head? Let me know in the comments.